and welcome to My Kitchen, My Rules. I'm Leigh Brown, and this is not your everyday cooking show. I'm a realtor. I live in North Carolina and started making videos during the COVID, and here we are. And several of y'all had asked me in the comments about how to make good Southern biscuits, and it occurred to me that not everybody is Southern, and that makes my heart sad for you. But I will show you how to make good biscuits. It's not hard. It just takes a minute, with like anything else in life. And currently we're going to start with ingredient number 1, which is 1 stick of salted butter. Now you have to use salted, and if you've ever been at the grocery store and wondered the difference in salted and unsalted, I can't help you, friends. You're going to have to go back to English class, I reckon. But honestly, if you have only unsalted butter at your house and you need to make a batch of biscuits, then just add a little extra salt, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon to your recipe so you have enough salt. So we're going to chop that into little pieces. By the way, this is cold butter, not room temperature butter. And then the next ingredient we need is flour. And I don't even have to tell y'all what kind I use anymore, do I? Do I really have to tell you that I only use white lily? And there is a reason, and I swear, I promise, I will make a video showing y'all the difference sometime, but that would require me spending my hard-earned money on other brands, and I haven't yet come to that moment in life where I'm comfortable with that. So in the meantime, you just have to trust me, but if you buy the other brands and then you buy white lily, you'll know. So we need 2 cups of flour, and one thing you should know is that you need to tap it against the side of your container so that you get the air out. You don't want a fluffy amount, you need the full amount. And let me just measure that out there, get it packed in. And if you ever wondered, that's the reason some people do sifting, is to get air into the flour, but the texture won't be right if you don't fill it up and tamp it against the side. So there's 2 cups of flour. And next we need, wipe my hands off, we're gonna need a little bit of salt, and you need about 1/2 teaspoon-ish. So I do it Justin Wilson style, where that's really close. And for those of y'all that have been asking me to, look, I will show you that that's 1/2 teaspoon. Scooch it up in there. Look, this is a teaspoon container. Look, see? Ha ha! Told y'all, the palm of your hand is a very handy place. So that's a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we need some baking powder, not baking soda. We're not doing a science experiment here. We'll do 3 teaspoons instead of 1 tablespoon, because then I don't have to dirty something else up. So 1 and 2 and 3. All right. You know what that's gonna do, right? That's the stuff that's gonna make it rise. So I'm gonna next be ready to add my butter in, but before I do, I'm gonna get the baking powder and the salt distributed evenly. So I'm just gonna use a fork for that, nothing super fancy here. And it's just to even it out and make sure I don't have a dead spot in my dough. And then we'll put the butter in and kind of chunk it around. And it's in all these nice little chunky pieces because we cut it up good. And for those of y'all that are new to my cooking show, if you go back and watch the old episodes, you will see that I have come a long way since the beginning, and I still get commentaries on those early videos about how I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm so grateful for the criticism. Totally grateful for it. Okay. Now, let's just say that you have a pastry cutter. You can use that. You can also use your hands. But before I put my hands in, I'm gonna get my buttermilk. You can also use whole milk, and you could use 2% or 1%, or God bless you buying skim. It's blue, y'all. Why do you buy skim milk? But anyway, if you get a milk with a lower fat in it, it's just gonna change the taste of your biscuits. Buttermilk makes the best, and yes, it's chunky and thick, and so if you don't keep it in your refrigerator, that might not seem right to you, but let's just have it measured out because we are fixing to get our hands in the dough here. Before I finish my dough, let me prepare my rolling out surface. So I'll go ahead and get a little bit of flour. All you can figure out right now is I am trying to reduce the amount of things I have to touch after my hands have been in the dough. You don't need a ton of flour on your countertop. You just need enough to where the dough won't stick. So let me spread that out nicely. And if you ever renovate your house and you enjoy baking, I mean, this is honestly like therapy, y'all, to sit here and touch flour on your countertop. So now I'm gonna mix this in with my hands. And what I'm going for here is a crumbly kind of texture, which is really just continually working the flour around with the chunks of butter, break up those chunks. And obviously the smaller you cut it, the less squishing you have to do. And maybe I should have cut it a little bit more, but here we are. So we'll just work it, work it, work it. So anyway, I've got it chunked down to, I think most of my big chunks are gone. Oh, and I was gonna tell you why I'm wearing it with my biscuits, because biscuits are known as comfort food. And we know that in disastrous times, a little bit of comfort goes a long way. So I can't be in Guam right now without a 24-hour plane ride to help my friends, but they can watch this video and know that they are loved and prayed over, and that somebody else will eat. We'll probably carry some of this somewhere. All right, now we're gonna add in this cup of buttermilk. You can mix it with your hands, or you can get your wooden spoon to mix that in. Frankly, it's a little bit cold. And don't over mix it. So what you're going for is the liquid to be in. You're gonna look for where it starts to clump together and make a light dough, but don't mix it and mix it and mix it. We are not using a hand mixer because, y'all, that will create the toughest biscuits ever. So if you ever wonder why there's some old ladies, you will eat their food and some there is not, I would imagine it has to do with the amount that they mix it. So I've got everything covered there. Let's get the good stuff off of the spoon. Now we'll turn out our dough. And it's gonna feel a little bit crumbly on the edges, but then you realize the moisture is just making its way through, so be patient. But if your dough is super duper wet, add a tiny bit of flour. And I don't mean much, because you're about to turn this out onto a floured surface. And if you add too much, then you gotta go back and add some more buttermilk, and you'll have to go back and forth until you get it correct. But if you just think 2 cups of flour, tablespoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, cup of buttermilk, that's your recipe. I mean, it's numbers you can remember, honestly. And then, oh, stick of butter, forgot to stick of butter. So let's get it formed up into a dough here. And see, I'm still coming apart. Let's work it in together. Come on, guys. We're making a video. You need to look good right now. Thank you. And when it starts to hold together, it's going to be ready to roll out. Now, you might have a rolling pin, but you'll also find the best rolling pin ever is a cold bottle of wine from your refrigerator, because the chilling helps the dough not to get overheated and keeps that butter from melting too. So, and to get the excess dough off your hands, just slowly roll it back and forth. This is a good reason to have clean hands before you cook, frankly, because this way I know what's going into my dough is just the dough. Should have remembered that, because it's got to go to 400. So turn your oven to 400. And if you're watching this before you cook, do that step first. All right, now let's get that cold bottle of wine. Now, spoiler alert, you don't even have to be a drinker to have a bottle of wine in your fridge. This bottle is 10 years old. I don't even remember who gave it to me, but it's still in the fridge. And now I'm getting my cookie cutter handy, which is also a beer glass. And so this is, for me, the right size. And you could use a cookie cutter. You can also use a mason jar or whatever you have on hand. So don't be stressed out if you don't have a ton of kitchen implements. Sometimes I think we overthink things. But when you're in My Kitchen, My Rules with Leigh Brown hanging out, you find out that we just don't stress about things, and we will just figure it out, which is, frankly, part of the Realtor Relief Foundation, right? Made up a foundation 22 years ago, and in the time since, handed out almost $40 million and impacted over 19,000 families, which I think is amazing. All right, so we're not gonna roll this a ton of times, just get it to, I don't know, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick, depending on how fat and fluffy you want your biscuits, and that's your family's preference, I guess. So let me wipe some of this dough off my bottle, which literally that's all I use this bottle for, is making dough, and it's been in my fridge now forever. And let's get, well, I do wash it after every cooking, by the way, for those of y'all that are silently or not so silently judging. Let me get a cookie sheet here, so I got something to put these beautiful biscuits on when I get it out. All right. Now, one of the joys of these biscuits is you don't have to grease the cookie tray. So let's just, the cookie sheet, let's just set it there. All right, all right, all right. Let's get our beer glass and cut. Oh, that satisfying sound when you catch the air at the bottom of that dough. Now these are gonna be, that's probably kind of flat. So it's gonna be a flat biscuit, but I might make some fatter ones when I go back and reuse my pieces of dough. Now you wanna leave them, I don't know, in half an inch to an inch apart on your cookie sheet. They can be friends, you don't mind them touching, but give them room to rise. Oh, and did I tell you all the cookie sheets ungreased? Make sure it's ungreased. Unless you just want that extra little bit of butter on the bottom, in which case knock yourself out. All right, because that's your kitchen, your rules. This one's got a hole into it, so we'll just, if you've ever heard about biscuits called cat head biscuits, that's essentially not rolling it out and not cutting it out. So that one's gonna have a resemblance to cat head since I did not get it perfectly up off of the countertop here. So you see what we've done? We reformed the leftover bits of dough to go back and cut out the rest. That's gonna be a little bit thicker because I want a little bit thicker there. And this is also why you don't over mix it the first time you make it, because then when you go back to redo, you would have a hot mess on your hands. All right, that one's gonna be a weird one because it just formed odd. Which that'll be the one I like. Frankly, I don't like a perfect one. Do you like perfect? I like slightly imperfect my own self. There's 400. In we go for 10 minutes or until they're the right amount of brown on the top. So, middle rack, 10 minutes. We'll see you in 10. All right, so they came out a little on the flat side, which is on me because I knew I rolled that dough out kind of thin. But you know what's funny? That giant cat head biscuit, look how that came out. Giant and perfect and still 1,000 degrees. Now maybe you're the type to want to cut it open and put butter all in it. I'm not. I've got my homemade small batch strawberry jam here. I slather it right on the top. And take a big, hot, oh my God. Super fluffy and light, so good. Let me know what you put on your biscuits. If you want to know how to make red eye gravy, check the link. Actually subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the link. And welcome back to my kitchen, my rules. I'll see you.